Hey guys. Um, it's been a while. It's been a while since I've done one of these sort of sit down talks, heart to heart kind of things. It's also been a while since I've really posted something on my channel that wasn't just the, the RPG stuff. Um, the last few of these, I was really emotional, just kind of breaking down, just a lot of venting, kind of whining, and that's not what I want these to be. I want these to be sort of like chill hangout areas where, you know, we can sit down and talk about stuff and whatnot. So that was the reason why I stopped doing them, because I didn't want to just do one every single week if it meant that I was gonna be, you know, freaking out, and, so what I did from that last one is I just kind of stopped everything, took a step back, you know. I stopped playing these mobile games because here's the thing is I don't have a whole lot of time to actually, you know, sit down and enjoy things and unwind and relax and de-stress and whatnot. So really, the only time I get to play is these mobile games. But unfortunately, the only way that you can actually do anything with them and progress in them is by logging in every single day, and you do stuff every single day. And other than the dailies, there's really not really any point to doing anything else, unfortunately. Which is one of the biggest pet peeves that I have. I prefer to just sort of sit down and play a game. Um, and that's why I like sort of RPGs and that original thing. But I also like, you know, story games. You know, basically something that you can pick up and put down, and you can come right back to it exactly how it is. Um, yeah. Uh, since then, I've stopped playing in a game that was on Monday. Uh, you know, I've stopped playing a game that was on Saturday. I stopped playing video games with friends on the weekends because, you know, sometimes it would be available and then it would get pushed back a day, and now it's being pushed back another day. I honestly don't know if we'll ever do it anymore because it's just scheduling is hard and whatnot. And so basically, the only thing that I have going on in my life right now is my Wednesday game. And I want to start doing a Friday game. And actually, if there's anybody out there that is interested, um, I would be very much interested if any of you all would like to play in a game that I've got. Basically, what I'm doing for the longest time, I've really struggled with mutual respect and you know, control and whatnot. You know, I was the kid that when we were put into group projects, you know, people would hang out and they'd be diddly daddling and doing little things here and there. But when it came down to it, I basically had to do everything. And honestly, sometimes people were working on the project and did do stuff, but we never coordinated and they were never talking. We never managed anything. So I would pretty much have to do an entire project by myself, and then they would also somehow throw something together at the last second that was passable, but, you know, didn't have what was necessarily, and they didn't have what I had. So I basically did, you know, 95% of a project that was like twice as good as what the other five people did or whatnot. You know, I've always been that person where I actually care and I will make it work. I will make it happen. And I'm learning that that's something that I'm having to let go, because I will wear myself out, first and foremost. But also, not everything is that important, which is upsetting for me. People should be able to rely on people, and stuff should be able to work. And when stuff doesn't work, it upsets me, and it's just a very different world, and I think that's just appalling, really, that we can live in a society where there's no expectations, there's no responsibilities. People can just do whatever and get away with whatever, and I don't think that's right. But I also know that I try too hard, so I'm trying to back off and not be so controlling or overbearing. And I don't like being in positions of power or control or authority, but I am probably the most responsible person that I know. And that's not a good thing, because I'm willing to step up, and I can, take control of stuff. I don't enjoy it. I don't like it. That's not where I want to be. I personally find myself more of a supporting role. I'm better at that stuff. But that's just sort of the world in this day and age, unfortunately. Um, so I used to only want to make big things, because if I work on a story, then I can write many chapters and pages and describe it as vividly and descriptively as I would like. Because writing short stories is hard, because it's hard to make something in the first place, but it's also hard to get started. And then even once you do get started, how do you make it interesting? How do you even get people hooked? How do you get people interested in caring? And then how can you then suddenly end it just as quickly as you started it? I've always found them more difficult than anything. It's not that I dislike short stories or that I find that they're, unfulfilling. It was literally just a difficulty issue for me. But that's sort of the same perspective that I took with running campaigns. I would very much rather hook up a group of people, spend the time to get them into the game, get them introduced, get them, playing and working together, get them to know each other and get the ball rolling. Because, you know, trying to do that with just a group of people that you only just met and try to work together, it usually doesn't work, and it's difficult, and you're still having to meet new people, and that's honestly still the problem that I'm having with my Wednesday game. Because certain people can only get off work at a specific time, and actually we have some people that are still doing stuff like an hour or so into the session, maybe half an hour into the session, and then certain people have to leave. That means that we only have a 2 hour window to run the game, which I don't know if you've noticed, but it's difficult to get people into the game. I can't just say, the session starts, what do you do? Let's go. Like, what's happening? Because it takes a while for people to get back into character. It takes some time for them to get into the feel for the game, to get the ball rolling, basically. And sometimes that takes half an hour to an hour. And, sometimes we don't even start on time. Sometimes there's, people that don't show up, or, I'm struggling with something at the beginning and I have to, put us on hold for 15 to 30 minutes, So basically we only have an hour of actual progress happening. if even that. Sometimes half an hour because, there's a lot of description or, discussion and side talking. So there's not even a whole lot of actual play being done. And that's upsetting for me. Not frustrating, but it is upsetting because I wish it could be better, but I'm realizing that there's nothing that I can do. I can't, start the sessions early or, do a little intro to really hone in and get the setting going. It really doesn't matter what I do. It depends on, the day, the player, how they're feeling, how's it going. Um, so, yeah. And it's upsetting for me because I want to provide a good game and I want them to have fun, but it's difficult. And we've been steadily losing players, and I've been trying to get new players in, get them accustomed, and you know all this stuff, and it's just nonsense. And I've had this problem with all my other campaigns of like losing players and trying to get new players in, to the point where my first campaign I actually had to literally stop and then restart as like in the same world, same timeline, uh, one original character, but just completely rest new cast of players. Yeah, it's messy, and I'm really sad that that campaign just sort of ended. Also, my Curse of Strahd campaign also just sort of ended, and that was upsetting because the biggest thing about it is that it's the Curse of Strahd, and I really, for the biggest thing that I tried to drive home with that campaign is that it's not the curse that Strahd put on the world, but it's the curse of Strahd. Strahd's curse. Not the curse that he manifested or gave, but the one that he has. He is cursed, and he is holding a curse. And I literally took that interpretation of, the words and made a campaign designed around that. And so it was really frustrating whenever, I would go into these details and, describe what's happening. And then, every single session we would come back and people would assume that, like, okay, it, because it's metagaming. It's metagaming to know that, you're just supposed to kill Strahd. And Strahd's the root of all evil. If you kill him, then everything gets better. And I tried to, change that vision by actually introducing the party to him and explaining his situation and showing how he is just a hurting and defeated person. And then they still decided, you know what, let's just go kill him. And so they did. And I'm like, okay, but stuff is going to happen. And they're like, that's kind of it for us. And so we just ended the campaign there with the world actually getting worse. And I'm just like, okay. I don't know. Just super. It's frustrating not because it's not the story that I wanted to portray. It's frustrating because how I worked and labored on the game and made stuff, detailed and, I can't make some describe all these sort of, complex interactions and, I can go on and on about, what's happening and what's going on, all these. I can only do so much. Yeah, I'm ranting a little bit, but basically, I'm at this point where I'm trying to do so much and it means so little that I'm just overworking myself. And I'm, destroying myself, basically. So I'm gonna try this thing on Friday where I'm doing little little one shots, and basically, is that the idea? Well, typically a one shot is, you describe a scene, you get a bunch of people together, they do the thing, and then that's it. It's just a one session thing. It's just a single experience, and yeah, that's pretty much it. It's like a single issue in a magazine. It can be standalone adventure, basically. Um, but some cartoons and comics will like tie together because they're the same characters in the same world or whatnot, but don't necessarily follow the same timeline. Like the previous issue doesn't necessarily relate to what just happened. Sometimes they do. That's when it becomes a series. Um, so what I want to do with this campaign for Friday is that I'm gonna let people come and go. People can show up whenever they want. They can miss a session. They can come back if they want to. They may just try one and not want to come back at all. And the reason why I think this is going to work is because one, the setting that I've got, and two, the game system that it is. Because with something like Dungeons and Dragons, you spend a lot of time making a character, and usually what that entails is that if you're going to be joining one shot, you're using a pre-made character that you've already made, and when that happens, you have to do a lot of adjusting, you have to ask for a lot of exceptions. It's just it's a whole mess. It would make more sense to start from scratch rather than see what the game master allows, and what the setting is, and try and make it work. Trying to make stuff work usually doesn't work. But that's why this system I think will actually work for that. It's a very simple system. It's the Kids on Broom system, and basically how it works is that there's 6 stats. There's fight, flight, brains, brawn, grit, and charm. And like the first 4 are like complements, or you know reciprocates of each other, or I guess they would be opposites. Anyways, but like charm and grit are like just different things, because charm is like how you interact with people, and grit is how you're able to resist stuff, basically. But basically how it works is that you have those 6 stats, and then you assign a dice to them. So you can get a d4, a d6, a d8, a d12. Wait, d4, d6, d8, d10, d12, d20. And if someone tells you to make a flight check, and your flight dice is a d6, you roll a d6, and you can get anywhere between a 1 and a 6. And that's basically how it works. Is just you decide how good you are at different stats by giving them a bigger dice, so you have a higher chance of getting a bigger number. That's basically all it is. And the setting that I'm going for is Western sort of outlaw settlers, Red Dead sort of Fallout type of situation. Or basically it's sort of open world sandbox type thing where, I'm going to introduce where the party is currently, and then they can decide what they want to do today, basically. And, depending upon the amount of players that I've got, the situation, characters, and whatnot, I'll probably try to introduce something. But more often than not, I think what I want to try and do is give them different options and opportunities. Be like, if you want to go, dungeon diving, there's, the plateaus will have like monsters and whatnot, or you can, scour the desert for shrines of ancient temples or whatnot, or you can go into the forest and hunt for animals or outlaws. I'll leave it relatively open, and I think that'll work. I think that will be pretty cool, pretty interesting. So if there are any of you out there that are interested in something like that, please let me know. Um, Either respond to this specifically in the comment section, I suppose, or I do have a game open on startplaying.games, which is a site that one of my players introduced me to. I'm not sure how great it is, but I'm gonna give it a shot. Um, yeah, the that's basically all that I've got going on in my life at the moment. Other than I am trying to get back into writing, and there isn't really a great way to show you guys that, except, I mean, I suppose I could read my books on. The problem with reading my books on my channel is that, one, if it's not all out, then there'll be like swaths of time where you guys won't have like the rest of it, and that's one of my biggest pet peeves. It's like one of the reasons why I don't, keep up with current media, because if I'm reading or watching or listening to something, and the next chapter isn't out, I just get so frustrated that I have to completely block it out of my mind and ignore it for like ever, because I can't enjoy it anymore, because I can't, keep focusing on it or whatnot. Which is why, I don't watch Critical Role, or, I don't watch movies and stuff because, or shows, because I don't want to wait for the next release. Basically, the only thing that I've done that for is The Mandalorian, but that's simply because my parents and I watch them like every weekend together, so it's kind of like waiting, but they get released every week too, so I guess technically it isn't waiting, but it would be like trying to watch them all in one sitting, I suppose, and then the next one's not there, so you have to wait the next week. Anyways, man, I need lots of water. So yeah, I don't want to record my books on my channel because I'm not done with them. And I've never finished a book. I haven't really finished anything, any of my art. There's been a couple things that I've like tried to say, like, you know what, I'm done, and like release the art, because I did like I've done a couple commissions, but really haven't really finished anything, and part of that is because I'm a perfectionist and I don't want to be done with it. I want to keep working on it until it's perfect. Yeah. So yeah, and if I start releasing recordings of my book like every week or so, then I'll start to feel pressured of like, okay, I need to at least do a chapter this week so that I have something to post. And I don't want to do that because that really messes with the creative process. And actually, the reason why I started started streaming right now is because I was trying to work on my writing and it just wasn't flowing. And I was trying last night too. I'm like, I'm in a good writing mood. It's quiet, it's cool. I can open my window, I can turn on my computer, and it won't heat up my room. But it just wasn't flowing, and I didn't want to force it, because I have forced myself before, and it's not great. And it's literally just because I've got this sort of like little hurdle in between scenes that I want to do. I'm like, I could just jump to it and then come back, but I think there's definitely going to be context for like what happens between those two things. So I'm struggling to figure out, what needs to happen. So yeah, it just wasn't flowing, unfortunately. And I was like, well, let me try working on some other writing stuff too, and it just it just wasn't flowing, you know, and sometimes that happens. Um, and for something like writing, it's difficult because every step sort of relates back to what was previously done. For something like, you know, sculpting or drawing, you know, or you know, that kind of stuff can have some effect, but you can pretty much go back and just sort of adjust some stuff. You know, there's some obvious things where, you know, if you start drawing, you know, a guy, you know, climbing a ladder, and then you decide that you don't like that, what you'll have to do is just like completely destroy it and start over. But you can do like slight adjustments, like changing it to a girl, and like changing it from a ladder to, I don't know, climbing up onto a boat. I don't know. Basically, the point that I'm trying to say is that I feel like writing is a bit more difficult because of how situational the aspects of it relate to each other, if that makes sense. Um, yeah, so sometimes you really can like buckle down and start drawing, or you know, it's whatever it is. But I feel like writing is, especially like um, book writing, like novel sort of free form. And usually, what I do to get back into the situation is rereading it, and you know, grammar checking it and whatnot. Um, but I've been really having like a good process with this, that even just sort of sometimes when I reread stuff, I'll be like, that's not good. That's not right. I should start over from the beginning. Basically, like destroy everything, and then I'll completely change like half of the novel that I've already written. You know, because I've written about I've written a short prologue which is bad, and I think I want to definitely destroy or redo. And I've written 2 chapters, I believe. I think I'm on chapter 3, but I might be thinking that the prologue was chapter 1. So I think I know I've completed at least 1 chapter, and I might be working on chapter 2. But I'm about I wanna call it, because this next scene that I do have planned, I think I definitely want to be chapter 3. I'm not sure. I'll have to figure out how. This is a lot of nonsense where I'm just talking to myself, and I apologize. Yeah. Um, and actually, I will say the biggest reason why I'm concerned with reading my books on my channel is because, and this is probably stupid, but I am afraid of getting it stolen. You know, that's why I didn't like keeping my content on my laptop, or on, you know, any sort of digital, you know, I didn't want to keep it on Google Drive, or, you know, somewhere, you know, I keep it on Dropbox, and I'm just like, yeah, it's, you know, I don't know. I guess the idea is that I'm scared of getting my work stolen, because that would be devastating for me, to, you know, put all this work into something that I know is good, and, you know, to have it completely getting the rug ripped out from under me and someone else posting it. You know, all I would have is that I have this, you know, document that's dated back to the certain day, but I don't think that would hold up in a court of law, and, you know, there's a bunch of logistical stuff. I would just hate to have my stuff stolen. So I would prefer to get it published somehow before I start reading it and posting on my channel. Which is why writing is sort of a difficult media to be working on at the moment, because it is one of the things that I truly just enjoy. So I'm granting myself that, because I just love writing so much. It just feels so good. And there's basically nothing else in my life that I truly just enjoy. Um, So I'm allowing myself the the ability to write, even though, you guys probably won't even see it for maybe years. I don't know. I I've been making some good progress with this. I think this book might take a year. Don't hold me to that, but I think it's going pretty quick. I think once I'm done with it, I'll want to take another stab at it and go over it again. But yeah, I don't know. Because I was thinking about, like, if I were to turn this into a book series, what would I do? And some of it would be, adjusting some things here and there. Um, I don't know. I'm just sort of rambling at the point, and I guess that's sort of what this is supposed to be, is just for, a place for me to talk and, us to sort of get a feel for what's happening and going on and whatnot. But I feel like I'm just sort of floundering. Um, but some of the information that I can tell you about the book is that it's realistic fiction, which means that there's no like fantastical elements. This is all stuff that could absolutely happen in real life. A lot of it is sort of based off of experience that I do have. I think that's the best way to, make something realistic, is to actually relate to it. I would say that I personally relate to pretty much everyone, every single character that's in this book. Um, so none of the characters are like very flat or two dimensional or based off a stereotype, or some. I don't like making characters based off of people that I know. I just don't think that's fair for me to do to those people. I don't think it's fair for me to use their likeness and whatnot. Um, but basically, what it's about is it's the life and struggle of, like, not knowing what you want to do, not knowing where to go, and the idea of sort of like a child feeling constricted because of their life in their teens. Um, and some of that is like oppression from like school, or like uh, parents being too, uh, you know, whatever. But then it's the progress of being like, you know what, maybe it's not about all that stuff. Maybe it is, me, and I can not accept stuff, and I can like choose to like just change my mind and get better about stuff. And they get help from like this person that is just sort of like, just sort of a free sort of free spirit, basically, that's open their mind a little bit. It's very much I would hope that this would be something that kids would read in class, because I'm so tired of like these old books like To Kill a Mockingbird, which I know has like some cultural significance, but I just don't think is really that interesting. I found books like Hoot. Hoot was not bad. It was not good, but it was not bad. Um, Stuff like To Kill a Mockingbird is, everyone treats it like this great masterpiece. I'm like, it's good, but it's not necessarily interesting. It's specifically not interesting to kids. Even something like Fahrenheit 451, which is like this, scientific, futuristic thing, and it makes a statement, and I'm like, Fahrenheit 451 could have been written as a short story, because a lot of it is just sort of floundering. For those of you who don't know, Fahrenheit 451 is about this guy who's a firefighter, but instead of like dousing out the flames of buildings. Everyone lives in a utopia, so things like accidental fires can't happen. So what he actually does is he has their trucks are full of gasoline and not water, so they burn houses down. And basically, what they do is they destroy any sort of written knowledge, like books, especially fictional books, things that aren't real and don't exist, things that aren't fantasy, should not be known by society because it is detrimental and whatnot. So, yeah, it's just like a perfect futuristic utopia where, you know, technology is everywhere, technology is perfect, technology solves everything, but there's not really free will. And it's kind of tying into this idea of, if there's a utopia, it is a dystopia, because there's no such thing as a utopia. And The Giver is pretty much the same thing. The Fahrenheit 451 is like, books shouldn't exist because they can create problematic and creative thinking, which is bad for society. And what The Giver is pretty much the same thing, where things like emotions and light and color and creativity don't exist, and everyone just sort of lives in this very simple black and white world. But things such as, you know, joy, hate, fear, you know, the ups and downs of life used to exist, but is only allowed to be remembered by one person, called The Giver. And he's getting old, so he's starting to give all those memories to this young child, and then the young child kind of starts freaking out and decides to run away. Also at the end of Fahrenheit 451, the guy is like, you know what, I think burning stuff is bad, and I'm gonna start reading books. Basically, it's the idea of like pursuing personal thought and freedom is dangerous, and people in society will try to stop you, but we should, basically. We should, you know, pursue to be bigger, dream, you know. So, and, you know, I think that stuff could have been written in a short story and not told in this sort of multi-chapter thing, because none of the chapters really helped define anything specifically or expound anything creatively. It was just describing the events of a person's life over time. And I think maybe that, you know, because I described it in just a few seconds, but I don't think you guys truly understood the picture. So I'm not saying that you guys should go read it, but I'm letting you know generally what it is, and if it's something that sounds interesting to you, you may feel free to do so. But I also feel like if someone were to make a movie, it would literally just be a bunch of very blank and boring scenes until something happens. And I don't particularly enjoy media like that. Because basically what Fahrenheit 451 would be as a movie is, like, the first scene would be him going and burning a building. And then the rest half of the movie would be just a bunch of people sitting down being like, man, life is weird. Yep, I wish life could be different. What? You're crazy. Okay, I'm sorry. I'll settle down. And then a scene where he like finds a book and he looks at it, and then I guess it would be sort of like a psychological horror. I think they could make a decent movie out of it. The book is very much not a horror, but I feel like if they did make it a movie, they would make it scary for some reason. And then, like, the climax of it would be him burning another building or something, and then he runs away, and then credits. You know, it's just like, I think it would be very boring, and I find most horror movies boring. Um, but yeah. So the story that I'm writing, I'm thinking about that sort of stuff as I'm writing it, because I'm thinking, would this be something that would be respectable enough to be offered to be read by children? And I would think that some of the contents that I'm going to be talking about are probably going to be suggestively bad, because it's talking about, psychological trauma and perhaps, physical abuse and whatnot. But I mean, in To Kill a Mockingbird, they literally talked about, like, uh, physically beating and abusing people. They actually physically described it, and um, racial issues and whatnot. So there was, like, uh, racial and sexual and physical abuse in that book, and I'm like, well, if that book can get away with it, or not get away with it, you know what I mean? But if that's allowed for children of that age, I feel like my book would also be, but I also feel like my book is more realistic, partly because it's more personal to the character, and I do describe things a bit more vividly and intense and realistically, rather than To Killing Mockingbird was just sort of notating that this person feels upset, just very blatantly, or not blatantly, but basically describing, just very simply. Um, and I also feel like, because my book is sort of set in the modern times of now, where I believe Mockingbird was, even for the time that it was made, was referring to a previous time. Um, my book is more relatable because it's in the modern times. So I don't know. It'll be interesting to see, um, if it even gets that popular enough. Because there's so much media nowadays. It is so hard to get it in the artistic world. Artists, like song artists specifically, have it so hard because they basically can't do anything. And a lot of what it is now with, like, stars is they have to be singers, actors, dancers. It's literally their entire livelihood to be in front of a camera on the stage, and that's horrible. I wouldn't wish that upon anybody. But some people, that's their dream, and so I respect and appreciate that. But not for me. No, thank you. Yeah. So my book is, it'll be interesting. Um, I wish I could, write some more interesting science fiction, but I've noticed that in some of the books that I have written, or in some of the stories that I've started to write, they're not particularly that interesting, because it's hard to understand, because I had such this vision, but as I'm reading it back, like, years later, I'm like, I don't see what I was seeing when I was writing this. So I need to get better with my visuals, or, you know because it is science fiction, scientific, it's stuff beyond our reality and our understanding. It's hard to describe stuff like that. um, Whereas, if I just sort of describe someone walking down the street, stepping over the lines on the crosswalk before waiting at a stop sign, I don't specifically have to describe what that stuff looks like, because you guys generally understand what it is and what it looks like. Um, Also, one of the biggest things that I struggle with is describing fight scenes, and I really want to do some fight scenes, but I'm just not very good at it. Which is why I would very much like to be able to get into animation. I've just always wanted to be able to animate. The problem is figuring out how to do it. And one of the cool things is that there is the software called Blender, where you can make 3D models by literally shaping it, like sculpting, which I think might actually work for me because the way that I draw stuff is that I see it three dimensionally and I have to shade it and literally sculpt it on paper, like adding, gray and then adding darker and, erasing it to give it highlights. So I think I would be able to actually make stuff in Blender. I just need to start. I need to figure out how to do it, and yeah, I don't know how I would do that. But if I did start making stuff, I don't know. Would you all be interested in that? Uh, I might do some live streams like this as I'm like trying to make stuff in Blender or whatnot, show you my progress and give you sneak peeks into whatever I'm making. And probably for the first while I'll probably just be doing like stills or whatnot, but I mean once I got like a full-fledged model, it's not that far off from actually being able to animate it and being able to do stuff with it. So that's pretty cool. That's something to look forward to. Uh, I am currently working with a project that I have my both feet planted in two projects that are pretty much dead in the water. One of them I am voice acting in. The other one, I don't really know what's going on. They're still trying to find voice actors and, script writers and whatnot. And, again, I'm willing to do stuff. And I even did, I wrote up a little script for something, and then I did some very bad voices, and then I edited the footage so that, it was my voice dubbing over elements, and, you know, it's not that difficult, but, it's at this point where I can either take control of this project and do it all myself, or this person needs to step up and, tell me or, the rest of us what they want with this. Because I will absolutely help them realize their vision, but I also don't want to make it happen. I don't want to take it from them and, create something and say, is this your vision? I want to be there to help. I want to be a part of it, and I think I can absolutely help and assist, but I don't want to be the driving force. This is not my project. This is not my idea. Because there are plenty of other things that I would rather be doing. I have so many, dreams and wishes and desires that I would like to do that I think it would be far more better for me to be spending my time and energy on. So that's sort of what I'm going for at the moment. I don't want to control that person's project. I don't want to control my players. I've got a new series of one-shots every Friday I want to do. Like, whoever shows up, run something, see how it works, see how it goes. Standalone things. People can show up, people can leave. It'll all be open to whoever wants. And in the meantime, I will be pursuing my own desires, my own projects. And I really do want to get back into doing my comic thing. The problem with the comic is that I'm not really sure where to go with it, because the original idea about it was going to be a representation of events and sort of my lifestyle, but I don't think that's necessarily appropriate to get too personal on. And that's why I was trying to make it very simple and lighthearted and just sort of basic 4-panel jokes, which aren't even really jokes, but I find hilarious. but I honestly don't know where the best place would be to post something like that, because in the meantime it's basically just storyboarding at the moment, because I'm not a good enough artist to actually make it interesting to look at. But yeah, I don't know. I'm trying stuff. I am trying stuff. Yeah, that's pretty much it for the moment. That's just sort of me catching up and letting you guys know what's going on in my life at the moment. I am still doing my day job. I would very much like to be able to pursue some more of these projects and whatnot, but I would need support. Um, and unfortunately, I don't have that support on YouTube. I don't have that support on Twitch. I don't have that support on Twitter or any other media. I don't have any followers on Patreon. Um, you know, I think I'm just way too small uh, to be able to get sort of any outreach and support like that. But you know, I'll keep trying. I'll keep going. You know, trudging forward. And the more stuff that I make, the more people will be able to find me. You know, the more I'll be able to get out there. Um, I just don't have a large enough community that any of my stuff will get out there. I don't have a large enough footprint that you know, I'll be able to pick up stragglers, because I'm sure there's plenty of people out there that are interested in what I've got. It's just hard for me to reach them because, you know, I'm just not big enough for them to be able to see. And some of that comes from like being able to interact on multiple social media sites and whatnot. I just have this brush in my hand, and I'm just I do not have ADHD, but I am getting handsy. I'm not upset. My previous streams like this, I was very upset. I was hurting, I was processing, I was working through it. And I wouldn't say that I'm better, but I'm back to a situation where I'm just trying to be mellow. You know, it's this idea of consistency, of like maintaining this sort of stride in life where, you know, ups and downs are good. You know, it's good to be stressed, it's good to be worried, it's fine to be upset. You know, it's healthy to cry. But the problem with that is that I have so much negativity, but I don't have a lot of outlets. You know, I don't have things that I enjoy and like to do that, you know, can help me. You know, this weekend I'm like completely free and have all these options and opportunities, and I'm just like, I don't even know what to do. And my first instinct is like, oh, I should work on something. You know, I should make something. I should, you know, be working on prospects and projects that will get me attention and money. And I'm just like, why can't you just do anything for yourself? Why are you always doing stuff for other people? And I'm just like, well, I guess that's life, but it shouldn't be. You know, I I don't know. I and and I'm out of water. I took the lid off my water bottle because I was like, maybe there's like a little bit of drip in there. And, well, it came down and splashed on my face, and b- basically nothing got in my mouth. Uh, and now it's just, splashed down my neck and into my shirt. So that's good. Um, yeah. So, long story short, I'm I'm fine. I am. I'm actually fine. I'm just in progress. I'm working on stuff. I'm doing more things, and also doing less things. If that makes sense. I'm not spending as much time and energy on stuff, which means that I'm able to do more stuff. I'm able to actually work on more stuff, which is a skill that I think I definitely needed earlier in life. Um, yeah, I am trying to put in more uh, time and effort into stuff. Um, or rather, I'm trying not to put as much time and effort into stuff because, you know, all that effort isn't really noticed. Not to saying that it's wasted, but I think it would be far better for me to do the bare minimum and just sort of do do so many more things. You know, spread out my my roots and see or branch out. That's the term. Spread my roots. I need to branch out and try more things and dip my toes into all these different pools and figure out what's working, where to go from there. So yeah, um, that's basically it. Didn't really have a whole lot to say or talk about. Just sort of wanted to sit down with all of you and talk about stuff, and that's pretty much it. So thank you for listening to me. Um, those of you that actually came and watched, and any of you who will be watching this after the fact, uh, yeah, look forward to some more stuff. As I'll be trying to be making more stuff, even if it isn't as great quality. Um, it will be not as nice, but there will be more options to choose from, basically, which I think is always a good thing. Yeah. I still don't have a sign out. Never really had a sign out, actually. Um, I had an intro for a while, but never really a sign out. Yeah. I guess. See you all later.